Imagine looking so far into space that you are no longer seeing places. You are seeing ages. At the greatest distances the universe allows us to observe, time stops behaving like something personal and becomes something geological, almost mythic. Galaxies do not simply appear far away. They appear unfinished. Their light arrives thin, stretched, delayed, as if reality itself has been slowed and dragged across the dark. And the strangest part is this. What we call the edge of the universe is not really an edge at all. There is no wall, no boundary, no cliff where space runs out. And yet near that limit, time feels different enough to make the cosmos seem haunted. Because when you stare toward the edge of the observable universe, you are watching the universe become younger, hotter, denser, more violent, more alien. You are watching the familiar world dissolve. And eventually, if you look far enough, you reach a place where the universe was so young that stars did not yet exist. No planets, no oceans, no life, no eyes to witness anything. Just darkness, heat, expansion, and the long beginning of everything. We tend to think of time as universal. 1 second here, 1 second there. A clock ticks in New York, another ticks in a distant galaxy, and we imagine time itself remains fair, steady, shared. But the universe has never made that promise. Even here on Earth, time is already fragile. Gravity changes it. Speed changes it. A clock on a satellite does not agree perfectly with a clock on the ground. If we ignored that fact, GPS would slowly fail. The technology in your pocket works only because Einstein was right. Time is not absolute, so if time can bend around a planet, what happens across the largest structure we can possibly observe? To unswear that we need to let go of one comforting idea. The universe does not have an edge in the everyday sense. Cosmology gives us something stranger, an observable horizon, a limit to what light has had time to bring us since the universe began. Not a border in space, but a border in visibility. Like a sailor standing on the ocean, you can see only to your horizon. The sea continues beyond it, but your world ends where sight fails. The cosmic horizon is similar. Beyond it, there may be more galaxies, more emptiness, more unimaginable structure, but their light has not had enough time to reach us. So when people talk about the edge of the universe, they usually mean the edge of the observable universe, the farthest distance from which anything has had time to become visible at all. And that is where time becomes deeply unsettling, because light is not just light, it is memory. Every beam crossing the dark carries an older version of reality. Moonlight is a little over 1 second old. Sunlight is about 8 minutes old. The nearest star, more than 4 years. The Andromeda Galaxy, over 2 million years. These delays feel large by human standards, but on cosmic scales, they're almost intimate. When astronomers point their telescopes toward the deepest sky, they're not merely surveying remote territory, they are looking billions of years into the past. Some of the galaxies we observe appear as they were more than 13 billion years ago, when the universe was young, raw, and still learning how to build structure. Distance, in cosmology, is time made visible. That alone is enough to distort the mind, but there is another layer, a more unnerving one. The expansion of the universe does not only separate galaxies, it stretches the light traveling between them. As space expands, wavelengths lengthen, light shifts toward red, and with that stretching comes a subtle distortion in timing itself, at least from our perspective. Events in extremely distant galaxies can appear slowed down, not because the people there, if anyone were there, would feel their hearts beating in slow motion, but because the expanding universe stretches the intervals carried by their light. A pulse becomes longer, a flicker becomes delayed. A cosmic explosion unfolds more slowly by the time its signal reaches us. It is as if the universe places ancient events behind thick glass and lets us watch them through a deeper and deeper delay. So near the observable edge, time seems to work differently, not because the laws of physics collapse there, but because we are receiving reality through the stretched fabric of an expanding cosmos. And the farther out we look, the more severe that distortion becomes. This is where the idea starts to turn from scientific curiosity into existential shock, because what lies near that horizon is not just far away. It is the early universe, a universe before mature galaxies, before quiet star systems, before stable worlds, before anything remotely like home. The deep cosmos is not simply a remote neighborhood. It is a previous version of existence. Imagine standing in a library where every shelf farther from you contains older pages of reality. Walk a little and civilization disappears. Walk farther and planets disappear. Farther still and stars themselves vanish. Keep going, and you reach an age when even atoms were struggling to form. That is what the sky really is, a visible archive of lost time. And eventually, this archive reaches a limit. There is a wall of ancient light surrounding us. Not a physical shell, but a final glow from a time when the universe first became transparent. Before that moment, the cosmos was so dense and so hot that light could not travel freely. Space was like a blinding fog. Photons scattered endlessly. Nothing could be seen through it. Then, roughly 380,000 years after the Big Bang, the universe cooled enough for light to finally move unimpeded. That ancient light still surrounds us today as the cosmic microwave background. When we observe it, we are seeing the oldest light in the universe that ordinary telescopes can ever hope to receive. Not the beginning itself, just the first surviving afterglow. And that should disturb us a little, because there is a hard limit, Divisia, a final curtain. No matter how brilliant our telescopes become, no matter how ambitious our species grows, there is a chapter of cosmic history that light will never simply reveal to us in the usual way. The universe keeps part of its childhood hidden behind physics itself. We are not merely small inside the cosmos, we are epistemically fenced in by it, and that fence is built from time. Now imagine trying to travel toward this edge. It sounds simple. Point a ship outward. Accelerate forever. Cross the horizon. But the horizon is not a destination waiting for you like a shoreline. It is a moving limit tied to what can be observed, what can be reached, what can still communicate with you. As space expands, some regions drift away so relentlessly that even light emitted may never bridge the growing gulf. In other words, parts of the universe are not just far, they are becoming permanently unreachable. Even if humanity built engines beyond anything we can currently imagine, dark energy and cosmic expansion would still impose a kind of slow, elegant imprisonment. There are galaxies whose present light will never arrive here. There are destinations already lost to us, not through weakness, but through the architecture of reality. This changes the emotional meaning of the night sky. Patiently waiting to be visited, you may be seeing something that has already crossed into forever. A fire is still visible, but no longer touchable. A chapter still readable, but no longer enterable. And time makes that separation feel cruel, because the distant universe is not only remote in space, it is remote in era. Whatever that galaxy has become since the light left it, we do not know. Perhaps it merged. Perhaps it changed shape. Perhaps its stars died. Perhaps worlds formed there and vanished before Earth had even cooled. The version we witness is a ghost carried by patience. Astronomy is often described as observation. In truth, it is a form of delayed encounter. We meet the universe late, and the deeper we look, the later we are. This is why the cosmic edge carries such psychological power. It forces us to confront a reality that human intuition was never built to hold. We live in the present, but we see the universe in layers of absence. We do not look out at what is, we look out at what was, filtered through distance, stretched by expansion, and thinned by time. Even our own existence begins to feel strangely provincial. Earth feels immediate because its signals are fresh. The ground beneath your feet is happening now, at least as now as physics allows. The people you love occupy roughly the same slice of time. Human life is built inside a tiny island of nearly shared presentness, but the universe outside that island is fragmented. One stat is 4 years behind, another is 1,000. Another galaxy is 10 million. Another is 10 billion. The cosmos does not present itself as a single synchronized moment. It arrives shattered into eras. And at the farthest edge of observation, the fragments become primordial. This is where another uncomfortable idea appears. If intelligent life exists elsewhere, then much of it may be temporally hidden from us. Even if it is physically out there. Somewhere, civilizations could already have risen and disappeared in galaxies whose light reaching us shows only their ancient infancy. Elsewhere, life may one day bloom in regions that will never exchange a single message with us because the expansion of space is too severe. Not because the universe lacks company, but because time and distance conspire to isolate minds from each other. The cosmos may be full and still feel empty, and one day it may feel even emptier. There is a future predicted by cosmology in which the night sky grows lonelier. As expansion accelerates, distant galaxies slip beyond visibility. Civilizations in the far future may look outward and see a far darker universe than we do. They may have no easy evidence of the Big Bang, no rich tapestry of external galaxies, no obvious clue that the cosmos was once crowded with light. We live in a rare era, an era when the universe still reveals enough of its history to tell a story. That alone should stop us for a moment. Because it means we are not only fragile observers, we are timely observers. We were born during a narrow window in cosmic history when the universe is old enough to have produced life, yet still transparent enough to let that life reconstruct the past. There is something unbearably beautiful in that, and something tragic, because all of this depends on limits we did not choose. No human being can feel billions of years in the body. We measure time in breaths, birthdays, grief, waiting, recovery. Our lives are short enough that even decades can feel immense. Yet the universe casually deals in spans so large that entire species are brief disturbances. Near the edge of the observable universe, that truth becomes impossible to ignore. There, Time is not a river for living things. It is a landscape, a terrain of ancient light. Frozen transitions, delayed catastrophes. First dawns arriving after 13 billion years of travel. We gaze into that abyss and call it astronomy. But emotionally, it is something closer to vertigo. Because the universe is not merely bigger than we are. It is older in every direction. Older in ways still reaching us. And perhaps that is the deepest reason the edge feels so strange. It is not that time breaks there. It is that our human way of imagining time finally breaks down. We are forced to see that the cosmos has no obligation to be simultaneous, reachable, or emotionally proportional to us. Reality is not arranged around the scale of the human nervous system. It never was. And yet, somehow, we keep looking. We build instruments in deserts and on mountaintops. We place telescopes in the cold dark beyond Earth. We teach matter, briefly organized into brains, to ask where the beginning went and why the sky remembers it. That may be the most improbable part of this entire story. Not that the universe spends time, but that within this indifferent expanse, something emerged that could notice, something small enough to be crushed by sunlight, and yet curious enough to measure the age of stars, something temporary, looking into eternity. So when we ask why time works differently near the edge of the universe, the answer is not just a scientific one. It is also a mirror. The edge shows us that distance is history, that light is delay, that the sky is not a ceiling of objects, but a museum of vanished moments. It shows us that there are limits beyond engineering, horizons beyond ambition, truths we can approach but never fully stand inside. And still, none of that makes the universe feel cold in a simple way. Harsh, yes. Unreachable, often. Silent, certainly, but also strangely generous. It has allowed one species on one small world to witness the afterglow of creation, to infer invisible epochs, to understand that the horizon is not the end of space, but the beginning of humility. Maybe that is enough. Maybe meaning was never supposed to come from conquering the cosmos. Maybe it comes from seeing it clearly, even for a moment. From recognizing that the same laws that limit us also allow us to understand just how extraordinary our brief awareness really is. We live close to one another in time. We live impossibly far from almost everything else. And still, across that separation, the universe leaves clues. Ancient photons, faded heat, redshifted whispers, a slow message from the dark, saying, "This is how far you are. This is how little of the whole you can ever hold." And perhaps that is why the edge of the universe feels so haunting. Not because it is where reality ends, but because it is where human comfort ends. Beyond that point lies a scale of time too vast to inhabit, only to witness, a reminder that the cosmos is under no obligation to be near, or kind, or fully knowable, only real. If this journey through the deep edge of time stayed with you, let this video travel a little farther. Share it with someone who still looks up. Subscribe if you want more quiet voyages into the universe, and leave a like if these distant lights made the night feel a little larger tonight.